know what LED stands for? Light emitting diode. Yeah, you're correct. So that is the LED. Now this gives us signals when the aircraft is powered up and we're configuring it or we're getting ready to fly it. It flashes different colors to give us different messages. So this has to be somewhere where we can see it. So we're not going to mount it on the surface like this because we wouldn't be able to see it. You're not going to mount it on the bottom. What we're going to do is we're going to mount it on the back. All right? And we do that because when you're flying, starting out, the aircraft is in front of you and you are going to be standing behind it. This is the best way to see it. So we typically mount it here with a zip tie. You can mount it over here. There's other places you can mount it. But what you don't want to do is let this wire get close to the propellers because it will cut it. All right, and when it does, the aircraft may still fly, but you won't have any idea when the battery is getting low or there's other problems. So we are going to set this right here. Now, on the bottom of this is a micro USB connector, and that is where we're going to plug that into with the micro USB wire that came with it and plug it into the laptop to go through the setup. That's how the flight controller talks to a laptop. All right, so we got to make sure that's accessible. All right, and the easiest way really is just kind of either set it on top or on the bottom. We're going to do it this way today. There's no wrong way to do it. It just is how we're going to do it today. All right, so you want to lace a zip tie through there. If you wanted to put adhesive, you can, but these are recessed. I don't know that it would really hold very well. So the best thing to do is put 1 or 2 zip ties on there and cinch them down good and snug. All right, so there's that. I'll show you in a second as I get this secured how it's kind of sitting on there. All right, there's that. Now a lot of times I'll take a pliers and I twist it like this, and that kind of tightens it against that. All right, so that's on there. I'll take the cutter and cut it off, and then because this is so important, I'm going to put a second one on. And also you can see it can twist a little bit with just one. So you put 2 on there, you're less likely to get that. All right. So here this goes. We're going around these 2 posts. So just to kind of show you, you've got 2 standoffs right there. I've got close to where you can see them. Those 2 standoffs, the red standoffs. And we're putting the zip ties around that. And you can see the LED is touching the top plate and the lower plate. That's what's kind of holding it in place there. So that done. Put another wire, another zip tie on there. So for the most part, when a zip tie goes on to your drone, it needs to be good and snug. Now we got 2 zip ties on there holding in place. Now what we did not do, as you can tell, we did not block the LED because we're going to need to see that during the setup as well as the as when we're in flight. So we got that like that. Now, this wire is going to snake through here. You got to kind of finagle it sometimes. Pull it up through here, and it's going to plug in over here where it says LED. Now, the Naza's got 2 slots that are horizontal, and the others are vertical. It's going to go into the one that says LED. It's a good thing about these systems, they're very clearly marked. They go together very well. So that is that. So that's plugged in there. Now, the last wire to get plugged in to the Naza is for the receiver. Now the receiver wire, it might look like this. It might be one that's, like I said, the brown, orange, yellow wire. But it's going to plug in the slot over here that says X2. All right. So this wire came from X3 as it was marked. This goes into X2 with the black wire up. All right. Now this can be a little challenging sometimes. So that's why we don't typically connect all those other wires right up. All right. So that's going to go there. Now we can plug in the EXP wire into the horizontal EXP slot. And then we're going to turn the LED in the horizontal LED slot. We're going to use any of these other pins over here. All right, that's for a different configuration and we're not going to go into that today. All right, so that's what that's for. This wire is going to come up to the front, and we're going to mount the receiver up here. Now, let's talk about receivers. You have several different kinds you might get in your kit. Some of it depends on which aircraft, which flight controller, things along those lines. This is a typical common one. This is a 6-channel receiver. This is a 10-channel receiver. This is an S-bus receiver. And you may even get a receiver that looks kind of like this, a very small one. Right? They all do the same thing. These receivers talk to your transmitter. All right, this is an example of a transmitter. The one you get may be different, but that's what they look like. So the receivers, the only function they have is when you make movements of the sticks on the remote control, it sends those inputs through the receiver to the flight controller. So what we're going to do, take our receiver. I put a piece of adhesive on it already. Now, you can mount the receiver anywhere. I'm going to mount it up here towards the front. And I'm doing that because it gives me a good way to mount these antennas. So these are the antennas. All right. The actual antenna is really on that end of it, the far end of it. All right. These tubes help give you something to kind of secure it. So we'll end up using zip ties to secure it there. Now, what you want to do is you want these either in an L configuration like they would be here, or you want one going forward and one going sideways. All right. So receivers, just like transmitter antennas, they receive signals off the side of the antenna, not off the tip of the antenna. All right. So you want to have it in an area where you can likely pick up the most signal. Now, there are different channels to plug in here. We are going to plug into the first one here that says PPM/channel 1. That's where we're plugging in. All right. And this one, the key is at the bottom. So that means that negative is on the bottom. Now, if you ever plug one of these in and you power the aircraft up and you don't get the light coming on, it's probably because you have the thing upside down if you have a connector like this one. All right. So here we're just going to take this and we're going to stick it right there. All right. Now, you may have to bind your receiver. We'll have another video that kind of talks about that, but ours is bound already. So what we're going to do now is we're going to set these two here. You see we've got kind of that L shape, and we're going to zip tie them down with small zip ties. Now, what you don't want is these things flopping around where the propellers might get them, all right? Because that will ruin your fun. So here we go. Kind of zip it down. There we go. There's one. I have an endless supply of zip ties in case anyone was counting. We'll slip this guy through there. Now, if you want to put more than one zip tie on there, you can. All right, so there you go. That's how that's going to look. All right. Now, the next thing